warm welcome to Ms. Kayoko Ota.
Yeah, so my name is Kayoko Ota, coming from Japan. And I'd like to first thank Ann Chi-chan, the director of this wonderful conference, and his great team, and also the organizer of this event who kindly gave me the opportunity to speak at this wonderful event. I wish there was such a convention mixing all kinds of people around architecture and urbanism in my own country, Japan. So today, I'd like to talk about to think architecturally, or what I mean is to see things architecturally, like an architect, by means of space, scale, or program, organization, or structure. So why? Now, were you familiar with this image? Maybe. This is a very inspiring image from 1964, created by Charles Eames. But anyways, it's just an inspiration, and this multiple screens actually come from an exhibition called Think, so something relevant to my lecture. So why do I think about, what I want to talk about, to think architecturally? Because I think by thinking architecturally, even non-professional people can have a new perspective, a new insight, or even a solution for what they're dealing with. And this will, of course, help architectural professions in return. So I'm showing also a few images from the architectural practice called OMA in Rotterdam, where I used to work for 10 years. And I still think that these are really pivotal images that have continued to inspire architectural thinking. So there are a lot of things that architecture can actually do outside the production of architecture. And today I will show you two exhibitions specifically that I worked on which I think enable people to think architecturally. So, as I mentioned, I spent some time at AMO, the think tank of the architectural practice OMA in Rotterdam, and making exhibitions as curator. And there, architectural curation was so inspiring to me and so unconventional, because it was not about organizing architectural works according to a theme conventionally, but rather about reconstructing the subject matter or unfolding a new perspective through architectural thinking and fabricating. And I'll tell you more about that later. So when I began working at AMO and also the architectural practice OMA in 2002, the office had been known for some unusual ideas and their representations, as you see here, that led them to architectural breakthroughs in terms of creation. And this is a key program that you're looking at for an urban planning for the city of Yokohama. It's a big city next to Tokyo. And it's a matrix of 24 hours in a day and different programs that could take place on the site, which was then occupied by the port. And this diagram led the architects to a radical idea of urban planning. So you see, this is a very generic port of Yokohama, and where a conventional way of urban planning, unfortunately, was taken up and realized. But however, although the proposal was not realized for OMA, the idea continued to inspire many other projects later, and I think that is also very important for us all. And what these diagrams show is that it's very important for the architects to observe subject and context critically and to communicate with the client or the future users their findings and hypotheses from an architectural viewpoint. And this is actually, I don't know if, well, Actually, this is a section or diagram of a super high-rise building proposed for Bangkok, Thailand, in 1996. I'm sorry that these images are rather dated, but I'm using the most effective images to discuss what's very, very fundamental in architecture, and that to be shared by non-architectural people today. And so this is a kind of, it looks like a subway map, and this is something that is familiar to everyone. And this was actually very inspiring to open up new channels for architectural professionals to come up with a new way of planning a super high-rise, which is normally like this, just the kind of many layers of the same generic plans, but introducing the idea of urban planning into a super high-rise was very, very novel at the time. So that was basically the attitude for their retrospective exhibition that they organized themselves for Berlin at the Neue Nationalgalerie, designed by Mies, as you may know, and this exhibition was entitled Content and held in 2003 and 2004. So in this exhibition, we've invented new kinds of architectural models and also made new ways to present them to the audience so that we can share the great architectural ideas with the visitors better. The visitors, we consider them mostly non-architectural professionals. And one of them was this model for China's central television headquarters called Cctv in Beijing. And this model, interestingly, it was actually beautiful model made with very thin resin plates, and they were sewn together like a basket and hung like a lantern from the ceiling. And so you can also walk under or past and just look at it like a beautiful object of art or artifice, and begin to understand how architecture works, because the thread lines actually shows the structural lines, and then you begin to understand how this huge structure of unusual shape works structurally. Or showing the pipeline of architectural design, or showing the organizational structure clearly, while making it amusing to everyone. But what's also interesting and important to say is that we also looked at the exhibition in the urban context. The venue is, as you know, one of the monuments built in the culture district of Berlin, and which is this venue is a place usually considered as a place of high culture, and while it's also very close to busy shopping and tourist area. So here, this is the Neue Nationalgalerie, which is the exhibition venue. And usually we just concentrate to the inside of the building, or maybe just around it, but we also looked at it in a more broader perspective. And here, it's called this is one of the city's node, the shopping or tourist node called Potsdamer Platz. And but the kind of people who visit here and who visit here, or this famous the State Library, and also the Berlin Philharmonic designed by Hans Scharoun, they kind of belong to, they're different kind of people for more kind of, aim to go there for high culture, and this is more kind of business and shopping. So we try to merge or mix these different kinds of visitors together by means of an exhibition. So we organized the exhibition as a kind of flea market and also as a kind of social condenser to which to plug in together the flows of exhibition visitors, tourists, students, and local shoppers. So a few years before that, OMA had designed something relevant to this in a shopping space in New York City in the Soho district, which was a new concept flagship store of the high fashion brand Prada. And I hope you don't think that I'm trying to promote the brand, but I'm talking about just architectural thinking. And OMA introduced non-shopping program in a shopping space, which is this, and like such elements like a big stage, large staircases, or information devices for public activities, which you usually don't see in a boutique. So the idea was to bring in the public in a place of market economy, and again, as a kind of social condenser. Or sometimes it was used as an exhibition venue like this. So when the same fashion brand Prada asked AMO, the think tank of OMA, to make an exhibition in their flagship store in Tokyo designed by Herzog de Meuron, the Swiss architect, we wanted to push the idea further. So what we did was that we proposed to intervene the shopping spaces with exhibition installations all over. So Prada suddenly had new kinds of visitors in their very pristine luxury boutique. So we decided to take up skirts as a material or the subject of the exhibition because we thought it was a pivotal category of work that Miuccia Prada designed since the 1980s. And as the initial step of curating, we studied and analyzed how skirts work, how they were made and how they work architecturally. So you see, it was very amusing to study the skirt from architectural viewpoint, in which modern and traditional techniques were interlocked as this skirt. This is a very amazingly expensive skirt, but actually if you understand the technique, you begin to understand why it's so expensive. Or the structure works to give various visual effects, of course. Or sometimes they rediscovered obsolete techniques and styles, and then she adapted them in a surprising way. So how do we represent these findings out in an architectural way? Well, we presented them in a way, in a very site-specific manner. For instance, I think women here, the ladies have seen lookbook. You know what I'm talking about by lookbooks. It's a catalog of the entire models for design and sold for the season. And this is something that you can see in a boutique normally. And so we looked at all the lookbooks that Prada produced over the years since the beginning of the brand, and we made a small, I think it was 1 to 20 cut-out walking mannequins out of the lookbook images. And so we made them stand on their own and then make an army approaching towards the entrance to make the beginning of the exhibition. And presented these different characters of skirts in their most effective manners. And sometimes you are even invited to peep into under the skirts, like this. So you're looking at the floor, and then the mirror is placed, and then there you discover the idea about the skirt. Or here, we found that there is a motor used for an automobile window wipers, which of course swings back and forth. But sometimes the skirts are made with very hard materials like used for handbags, so we found that they can stand on their own. So we treated them as objects or sculptures. Or we can see through sheer skirts and enjoy the material properties now freely. And we also use the building itself as a backdrop of installation, connecting what's happening in the building, in the exhibition, with people on the outside kind of walking on the street. So the groundbreaking skirt here, and you see this white skirt is made of the textile which was invented for yacht sailing in the 1980s, and we put it against the backdrop of the textile itself and as an exhibition for for those on the street, because people inside the building cannot see it actually. Now, the question is, can we apply this way of inviting people to see things architecturally and think architecturally to something beyond the practice of architecture or beyond exhibitions? But can we apply it in a much broader way, like for solving social issues? So back in Tokyo since 2013, I have been setting up occasions for people from different disciplines to get together and look at social issues together as architectural subjects. So one typical issue of Tokyo is shrinking. I mean, you used to have this more than a half a century of fast growth, as you know, but now it's finally reaching the point, actually in 2020, the population of Tokyo, even the population of Tokyo begins to shrink. And that the city is in general is transforming this way, as you see like more abandoned houses or abandoned space in the community, or abandoned spaces increasing within a house. But at the same time, a major urban redevelopment is underway around Shibuya Station, which is the central Tokyo, because we need it. The city needs to continue growing. But this situation typically manifests a problem where the architectural profession is increasingly taken out of the scene. And well now, so for instance, this is how this Shibuya, the central node of Tokyo, is going to look like in 10 years from now. And so what I mean is that as the city needs to be sustained more and more by the market economy, the players of urbanism, notably the planners and designers of urban redevelopment, the players of urbanism, are shifting from the individual mind to more corporate mind. Yet I think that there are ways to reintegrate and bring back architectural thinking in the real politics of urbanism. And one viable arena is, of course, education. For the past 3 years, I've been teaching graduate school students, and they meet and talk to people engaged in the actual urban transformation, the people in the scene, and they're mostly not architects, but business people, and begin to acquire the student's own insight, and vice versa for those who come to talk to the students from various business disciplines. And then the students not only do research, but also are asked to develop their own counter-proposal to what's actually in the pipeline, and then bring it and propose it to those people. And this is a project of student last year, which was really fascinating, who made thorough analysis of the Shibuya district and made proposals, even kind of researching about this behavior, the particular behaviors of the teenagers and fashion, fashionistas who actually sustain the energy of the city. And so she made a constructive proposal to think critically and also more creatively to those who are actually changing or in the power for the urban redevelopment. And this autumn, we're going to talk about the automobile industry and work on how it can, and then asking the industry people to look at the future of Tokyo together. To see how automatic driving technology, for instance, could interact with urban infrastructure so that we can together cope with the imminent social problems arising from shrinking. And obviously, the communication between architectural and non-architectural disciplines is very, very tough, but also very necessary today. So as we have seen, we have no choice but develop the communicability, the ability to communicate together among different disciplines and to find solutions in an integrated manner. And I think one viable means is to create and share occasions to think together architecturally, the social issues shared among different disciplines. And I think, again, exhibitions and publications can be a great medium for accomplishing this task, rather than just focused on the professionals as the main audience. The audience can be actually much more broader and diverse and more effectively. Thank you very much for listening.